Welcome to Scriptural Snapshots, brought to you by Living Faith Ministries in Kaiser, West Virginia, where we bring the living Word of God into your life. I'm Pastor Gordon Brubaker. You know, history repeats itself. This is why it's said so often, if you don't understand history, you are doomed to repeat it over and over and over. And unfortunately, we have history books today that are being rewritten, that are becoming woke, that are changing history to a philosophical point of view rather than just listing history. And they do that to bring people into captivity. It's interesting that the Muslims in the Arab Spring, that the radical Muslims, when they took over, like for Egypt, they started destroying monuments in Egypt. They destroyed monuments in Iran. They destroyed monuments in Iraq and in Turkey. They destroyed the previous history to obliterate it so that nobody knows where they came from. And see, that allows them to form a new national identity because it's like nothing before that ever existed. The 1619 Project does the same thing. We'll destroy all this. We're destroying statues in the United States, and we're tearing down things because they're connected to slavery. They're tearing down statues of Abraham Lincoln, who led us in a bloody war to release the slaves. They're tearing down his statue. See, this gets to the point of where they want to tear down any remembrance of the Civil War except for one, and that was that our nation condoned slavery. And the Civil War is evidence that we did not condone slavery, at least not everyone, but a lot of people did. A lot of people were willing to sell their families and children to die in a war to protect an ungodly activity. We're talking about coming out of slavery or coming out of bondage, coming out of captivity. And we're talking about there's three ways that we go into captivity. And if you don't understand that, you won't understand how to see what's happening and how to get out of it. We said the first, most obvious form of captivity is forced captivity. It's like when people grabbed the slaves out of Africa and brought them to the United States or South America. We forget about that. South America imported way more slaves than we ever did in the United States. I heard one estimate that they had like 10 times more Africans sold to South America than in the United States of America. But we don't condemn those cultures. We don't condemn those societies. We only condemn the United States, because we're freer now than they were, than the other nations are. But that's forced captivity. When you force other people at the point of a sword, you either convert, you go with us, or you die. The second one is the survival captive. And this is more subtle, but it means in order to not die, you have to sell yourself to us. But the death isn't at the point of a sword. The point is, I've got to eat. We used Egypt as an example of that, of where Joseph organized Egypt in order to, with the 7 years of good harvest and the 7 years of famine, that the Pharaoh used that to basically buy the people into captivity. They sold their families, their lands, their property, their animals, themselves to Pharaoh so that they could eat out of the stored up grain. Because of the famine, they couldn't grow any food. And we see this is not uncommon. We see human trafficking today of people that want to survive, that want a better life and a better dream in the United States, that coming across the border and they're selling their children or even themselves to human trafficking. And that's, we said yesterday, that's modern day slavery. That's exactly what this human trafficking is. Make no doubt about it. This is not about just an indentured servant working off of a debt. This is slavery. To bring young women and young boys into brothels for other people to use. Jeffrey Epstein did that, as well as a lot of politicians that we don't know about that were involved in his little Epstein Island episode. This goes on all the time. And a lot of those girls were forced into this because if they didn't, they wouldn't eat. Okay? This is how that works. So this is survival captivity, I call it. They did it because if they don't sell themselves, they will die, or they have at least an opportunity for a better way of life if they sell themselves in this method. And that's just sick. That's just totally ungodly. The third type, I'll just get to introduce this. The third type, that way that we come into captivity, is unintended captivity. And I believe this is where the United States is right now. We're bringing people into an unintended captivity because people will trade their freedom for security. And a lot of times we will give up the very freedoms that the government is supposed to guarantee to us in order to have security from health scares, from high taxes, from poverty. We will sell ourselves because we're promised just a better way of life. And we don't intend to give up our freedom, but we wind up giving it up anyway. And this is a crisis that's in the United States of America, and I believe in the world right now today. This is how they're using captivity and using the things of the world to bring us into captivity. I'm Pastor Gordon Brubaker. God bless you.